but Jayne has been an active member of Rotary International for more than 20 years. She is past president of the Rotary Club of Marin Evening. She has held various positions with her club and District 5150. Jayne was governor of Rotary International District 5150 in 2018-2019. Jayne is the District Rotary Foundation Chair for 2019 through 2022. She has been District 5150's Chief of Staff, Annual Fund, and Major Gift Chair, Assistant Governor, and has served on District Conference Committees. Jayne and her husband, Gene Duffy, also of the Rotary Club of Marin Evening, are passionate about the Rotary Foundation. They are benefactors, members of the Bequest and Legacy Societies, Lifetime, White Hat Society, and the Paul Harris Society. Jayne and Gene are major donors and members of the Arch Crump Society. Jayne continues to serve as faculty for the Zone 26-27 Education Week for governors-elect and governor nominee training. Jayne and her husband also enjoy traveling and have done Rotary International Service projects in Thailand and India, including polio immunization. Jayne has been the recipient of numerous awards during her career and for her Rotary contributions. Jayne retired as president of a nationwide commercial mortgage banking firm. Please join me in welcoming Jayne.
Well, good morning. It's always a pleasure to be here. One of my times that when I was here, and I will always remember this, you all remember that my nickname is Champagne Jayne. And so that morning we had mimosas, champagne, and Irish coffees. And no other club, especially a morning club, has ever done that for me. So thank you for that. And I know that you're recording this, so you can just edit that first couple of sentences. Well, thank you, Rob, for inviting me today. It's always a pleasure to be here with you. And today I am going to talk about one of my real passions about Rotary, and it is the Rotary Foundation. But first, I want to thank you so much for all of your Rotary service. You all, you're a lively club. You're definitely into a lot of community activities, and I just really appreciate that. I think everyone knows that Rotary has 6 areas of focus, and one of the things that has happened this last year is that Rotary has expanded these 6 areas of focus now to include any environmental concerns. One of the comments that has gone to Rotary International is, why aren't you doing more about the environment? And so what they've done now is, instead of changing all of these areas of focus, they have expanded it to include the any environmental concerns. I've got a short video that talks about these 6 areas of focus. The Rotary Foundation really is the driver for Rotary International and all of us at the club level. And what's really neat about the foundation is that we not only are able to give to the Rotary Foundation, but we can turn around and then use the money that has been contributed to the Rotary Foundation. And there aren't a whole lot of charities around the world that have enabled us to do that. Now, Rotary has a number of different funds, and I want to touch on the annual fund. And the annual fund is a really neat fund because when we contribute to that annual fund, then in less than 3 years, half of what your club has donated to that fund returns to your club in the form of district designated funds. And again, it's just a great example of how you're able to donate and then have, in this particular instance, half of the funds returned to you. We just completed our every Rotarian Every Year campaign, and congratulations to John. He told me after 33 years, he finally won something in a Rotary raffle, so congratulations. He won that $250 gift card. Last Saturday night, we had a great celebration at the Gloria Ferrer Champagne place, and called the Captain's Dinner, and it was great. The only problem was, you all know my nickname, right? Champagne Jane. And I made the comment to the group that, you know, this is great, we're at a wonderful champagne venue, lots of champagne. The only problem was I was also the MC, so I had to wait till very late in the evening to enjoy all of the champagne. But anyway, back to the annual fund, and of course this is how our district and global grants are funded. And I want to pause here for a second and thank all of you for your donations and your ongoing support for the Rotary Foundation. And maybe, I just threw all the money on the floor. But Rob, maybe if you and John could come up and join me for a second here. Because I have a couple of accolades for you and your club. This is for last year's giving, so I'm sorry that Sylvia's not here. I've got two banners. One is the Every Rotarian Every Year banner. Presented to your club because you had 100% participation in the Every Rotarian Every Year. So thank you so much for that. And then, and I think it's only one of 3,000 or 3,200 clubs in the world that has received that, and there's more than 30,000 clubs in the world. And then the second banner I have for you is that 100% of you donated to the Rotary Foundation, and only one of 4,000 clubs in the world has received this. Now, within our district, we have asked in the past that on a per capita basis, that you contribute $200 per person, basically. But not this club, you were at like $280 some per person. So I just want to acknowledge your generosity and thank you so much for doing so much, and John taking care of everybody's money with the foundation. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And we're going to do this again next year because Rob's got 100% participation for each year.
All right.
Pictures.
Great.
Step there, John. Pictures. There you go.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
All right. So with regard to Every Rotarian Every Year, and just because our initial campaign is over, we certainly encourage giving throughout the year. In 1909, way before the polio epidemic hit, and Jean's dad was only 5 when he was stricken. And then in 1949, my sister was stricken with polio. She also was only 5 years old. And of course, in the late 1940s, early 1950s, that's when polio hit its worldwide epidemic numbers. And so we've continued to work with our partners. Today, however, there are 100 cases of polio in the world, all of which are in Afghanistan and Pakistan. And this is a much, much higher number than it was last year or in the past several years. And part of it has to do with the political unrest in those two countries. Part of it has to do that there are a lot of, there's some nomadic populations in those countries. The geography is very difficult, and unfortunately the Taliban has taken some really violent acts against polio workers, resulting in their deaths. You know, you've seen the ads. We're this close. We are this close. But I think everybody knows that polio is just a plane ride away. The neat thing about what has happened over the last number of years with our partners is that through the Polio Plus efforts, we have been able to create what are known as medical surveillance networks. And so we are actually able to track the virus of polio, where it's been, where it's going. And you remember the Ebola outbreak a good number of years ago, and it just kept going on and on and on, and finally stopped. And then a couple of years later, there was another one, and we sort of groaned about it. But that one got stopped in its tracks really fast. Why? Because of this surveillance network, and they were able to track where this terrible disease has been and where it's going. So they knew that it was the next village where this was going to go. So, you know, when we talk about Polio Plus, it's a whole lot more from a medical standpoint than simply eradicating polio, but that certainly is the major thrust. Now, another one of our funds is the endowment fund. And the endowment fund, like any endowment fund with a university, basically encourages us to either give cash today as a donation or include something in our estate planning documents that says, okay, I know I'm going to die eventually, and when I do, I would like to contribute X dollars, my house, my whatever of value. And it's a wonderful legacy that you can leave toward Rotary, and you can designate a variety of gifts. And I've got a short video about the endowment fund.
You're a Libra. You know what that means?
We work hard and we give back.
You know, someday this apple tree will be bigger than I am. We're leaving the future behind today. We'll see.
Giving to Rotary's endowment ensures life-changing programs will benefit generations to come. Your legacy is Rotary's promise.
On the 1st of July of this year, the Rotary Foundation trustees created a new recognition level for donors who have committed to leave $1 million or more to the endowment fund. Last Saturday night, I had the wonderful honor of recognizing Mike and Giddy Hebel, who were in the audience with us. They are members of the San Francisco Greater Mission Club. And Mike and Giddy, who were already Arts Clump Society members, have now made a legacy gift to the Rotary Foundation in the amount of $10 million. And they just have some things that they want to see accomplished, whether it's now or after they're gone, and it's amazing. District designated funds, I mentioned this a little bit earlier. Again, it is based on the annual fund contributions, and I think your allocation in 2018-19 was $1,436, and in the new year, it's going to be more than $1,000. So what did you use your DDF for?
In the past, we've used it solely for dishing or distribution to third graders with a club that Heather's also with the San Mateo lunch. This year, we got twice as much, we got 20 more. So we designated half of that for missionaries, and the other half is going to a international project.
Excellent, excellent. And I really appreciate that the San Mateo Club and your club are working together on that. It's a really nice collaboration. You can't read this, but I wanted to put it up here anyway. You can use your district designated funds in 5 different areas. You can use it for global grants, You can use it for Polio Plus, Peace Centers, the Endowment Fund, or one of the 6 areas of focus. District grants, using your DDF for dictionaries is great. An awful lot of clubs do that. It's the perfect use of that money. You can also now use that for an on-site assessment, so that if you are working on a global grant, and global grants take a little bit of time, and you know that you really want to do that, you can use some of your DDF as a district grant for a, I'm sorry, I just love the ping pong paddles. You can use that money to send somebody to whatever country to do that on-site required visit for a global grant. You can also use the monies for small international projects. And this year, my club, the San Francisco Chinatown Club, and a club out of Santa Cruz, which is a different district, the 3 of us pooled our money from a district grant standpoint, and so now we will be installing a water filtration project in Guatemala in January. District grants for international need to be less than $30,000. Global grants are $30,000 or more. And with you all, some of you know, there is a specific deadline for district grants, and that will remain as June 1st. Global grants, the neat thing about global grants is that the Rotary Foundation matches your DDF dollar for dollar. That is not the case with district grants. So the leveraging with regard to global grants is much more significant. And it must be in one of the 6 areas of focus, and there is no specific deadline for filing a global grant. I did want to mention when you use DDF for polio. And some clubs do this, most don't, but without a doubt, this is the most highly leveraging of your money. And if using this example, let's assume you've got $2,000 DDF from your club. The World Fund now matches that dollar for dollar. That changed on July 1st. Prior to that, it was 50 cents to the dollar. So you can see $2,000 of DDF plus $2,000 from World Fund is $4,000. And then the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation comes along, and of course they do their 2-for-1 match. So they then do $8,000. And so your $2,000 of DDF turns into $12,000. I mean, it's just such a wonderful financial scheme, and I'm an old commercial banker, and I wish I could have done this with some of my projects. So anyway, you know, we've immunized more than 450 million children around the world. We continue to do that. Rotary does not typically buy the vaccine, but we fund the polio workers, and I mentioned the disease surveillance activities. Rotary Peace Centers, this is just an amazing opportunity for people who want to have either a graduate degree or a certificate in the area of peace-related fields such as international development, peace studies, or conflict resolution. There's only about 1,000 of these individuals around the world now. Our speaker Saturday night at the foundation event is a young woman who just finished her Peace Fellowship, originally from Colombia, and you know about the strife that's going on in that country, and you know, you just hear from her heart what she experienced and what she's going to be trying to do in the future to help all of us achieve peace. There is a reference guide that you can find at Rotary2627.org, which is our zone website. And the great thing about this document is that it is filled with hyperlinks, which means you can find anything you want. Just put your cursor on whatever you're looking for, and the reference document will pop up. It's a really, really helpful document. And lastly, I, again, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for all of your generosity for the Rotary Foundation and all of what you do to help people around the world. And I've got one last video.
Any questions for Jayne on the foundation?
Just a couple of other comments. You saw here that Rotary is in 200 countries. Do you realize that's more countries than belong to the United Nations? And that's pretty significant. The other thing about polio, in January of this year, Jean and I actually went to India and were able to provide the 2 drops of vaccine to children under the age of 5, and that was just unbelievable. And the parents and the grandparents had these really, really broad smiles because they knew that their children will never get polio. And you know, it's just an amazing thing. And you know what you do in your community, you know, you may not ever hear a thank you, or you may not ever really know who you're helping, but believe me, they are all really, really appreciative. So thank you all very much. Happy Thanksgiving to you.